Mhm. Oh, hello! You've come for another of Murdock's Music Minutes, the place for album reviews and rankings from rock, pop, and indie and the like, with a bit of a post-Christmas beard. Today, it's about news, though. Old news from 1977 by a band called Queen. This album review contains anthemic rock, a killer robot, and stadium appeal. Never heard of Queen? I doubt it, but here is a quick briefing before we get to the album review. The history of Queen begins with a student band called Smile, formed by Brian May and Roger Taylor. But things only moved above semi-professionalism when eager and flamboyant singer Freddie Mercury, whose real name was Farrokh Bulsara, joined the band, pushed them towards a more ambitious attitude and suggested to change the name to Queen. After completing the lineup with bass player John Deacon, the band released their self-titled debut in 1973, but only gained first recognition with their second release, Queen 2, with theatrical elements, strong hard rock and prog influences, as well as Brian May's distinct multi-layer guitar sound and technique. With Sheer Heart Attack, they refined their sound and production to eventually arrive at the unique classic Queen sound with the hit albums A Night at the Opera, which included the worldwide phenomenon Bohemian Rhapsody in 1975, and A Day at the Races in 1976. By then, Queen had also become a huge live act around the world. That, and the fact of punk taking over in 1977, played a role in a bit of a stylistic shift for their sixth album, News of the World. News of the World is less heavy on the overdubs and the pompous operatic elements that Queen had become known for, and instead opts for a more basic, more direct and punchier rock sound. It sometimes is also argued that this album was designed to break the American market. Well, intentionally or not, News of the World went 4 times platinum in the USA. Neither the pessimistic album cover with a giant robot holding the dead bodies of the band members, nor allegedly snotty encounters with members of the Sex Pistols recording in a neighboring studio could distract Queen from recording some of their biggest anthems for this album. The album's famous cover design is a reimagination of a 1950s sci-fi magazine illustration done by its original artist. Stylistically, News of the World, like actually many Queen albums, is very varied. It also features more individual contributions as songwriters by the single band members, as we'll soon discover. Things kick off, or rather stomp off, with the deliberately primitive "We Will Rock You." The simplicity, however, is the special appeal here. This musically really basic call to arms, of course, works best as the live crowd pleaser it was conceived to be. Freddie Mercury gives full power here, and apart from clapping and stomping, there is no other instrumentation involved until Brian May comes in at the end with his iconic guitar solo as the climax. There is a lot of tension, almost anger, in this song. It is one of Queen's most well-known hits and deserves its place among popular, immortal rock classics. We will of the World directly continues with the next famous Queen anthem, the big sports sing-along, We Are the Champions. I think I'm not the only and first listener who wrongly believed that We Are the Champions is the closer to News of the World, when in fact it is track 2. This common mistake is understandable though, because apart from its larger-than-life anthemic quality that predestinates the song for an album closer, We Are the Champions indeed was used as the closing track on the hugely successful Queen Greatest Hits Volume 1 compilation. Well, who hasn't unintentionally or even intentionally heard this song? It's been played so often on classic rock radio and at various events that it is almost impossible to listen to We Are the Champions objectively nowadays. But I tried, and I have to say, still, this is a more than well-written and arranged arena anthem to celebrate and make you feel heroic. Despite its overexposure, this is a stone-cold classic in the Queen catalog, which is not exactly poor of world-famous hits. It's also the one song on News of the World that sounds the most like classic Queen from the A Night at the Opera days. After all the celebration, sheer heart attack follows. And for fans who've always been a little bit confused why there is a Queen album with the same name that predates this song by a good 3 years, it's always baffled me too. The song Sheer Heart Attack apparently had already been around when Queen recorded their third album, Sheer Heart Attack, in 1974, but no definite version was achieved until its songwriter, drummer Roger Taylor, had another go at it for the News of the World sessions and infused it with a high-speed punk attitude. The song really lives up to its name. It has a really insanely manic tempo, Brian May's screechy guitar and Roger Taylor's punchy rock vocals. This was certainly unexpected coming from a bombastic and theatrical band like Queen. Do you know just how I feel? All Dead provides a nice juxtaposition to the aggressiveness of Sheer Heart Attack. It's more of a ballad, beginning with gentle piano and with a sweet harmony vocal chorus. There is even time for one of Brian May's multi-track guitar passages. The catchy song is an homage to Brian May's Cat and about mortality in general. A lot of fans pass this song by a bit, but I think this is a really very, very good album track. All dead, pulling hope, I believe. Of course I don't believe you're dead and gone. For those who like their Queen anthemic, John Deacon's power ballad Spread Your Wings certainly will be a highlight on this album. The story about the dreams and ambitions of a young man simply working in a small bar is set to a soaring and truly motivational melody. It was also chosen as a single, not one of Queen's most successful singles, but what a fine track this is. It also shows what an important songwriter the shy and silent John Deacon was for the band.
So honey, spread your wings and fly away, far away. Spread your little wings and fly away.
As the final entry on a practically flawless side A, Roger Taylor returns with his Fight from the Inside, a kind of funky rock number. The song itself is not the most memorable one on the album, but it has a nice groove and is noteworthy because Taylor recorded the song practically all by himself. Did I use the adjective funky before? Well, that fits even more with Get Down, Make Love. Freddie Mercury's openly sexual, seedy, slow groove rock with a psychedelic break is one of those unexpected stylistic turns that would become common on Queen albums for a while from here on. It is also a bit of a precursor to Freddie Mercury expressing his libido on the early 80s Queen album Hot Space.
Get down, make love. Get down, make love. Get down, make love. Get down, make love.
To cool off and get back into harmless territory, we then get the bar blues shuffle of Sleeping on the Sidewalk. This is a Brian May tune and really just a standard blues boogie jam, but who knows, maybe this harkens back to the band jamming in the garage when they were still Smile. Queen really were in a playful mood for this album. The next track, Who Needs You, a John Deacon penned number, comes along with acoustic Spanish guitars and a vague calypso feel. It is one of those pleasant little songs that somehow make an album complete. I think it's quite catchy. The band could still play heavy rock though if they wanted to. Late in the game, we get Brian May's It's Late, a 7-minute rock monster of Led Zeppelin proportions. Great drumming and guitar soloing on this one. If you like Queen first and foremost as a rock band, you should definitely check this one out. After this powerhouse of a track, the album gently closes with My Melancholy Blues. And all of a sudden, we seem to be back in the Emerald Bar from Spread Your Wings, where a late night session ends with a sort of old-timey torch song. This, of course, is material where Freddie Mercury could shine as a vocalist, even though it maybe is not the most noteworthy track on the album. News of the World received mixed reviews by critics, but went to number 4 in the UK and number 3 in the USA, and even to number 1 in France. The tour to this album was a huge success, establishing Queen, excuse the pun, as the kings of stadium rock. In my opinion, News of the World is one of Queen's most coherent albums, even though it sometimes plays like a mixtape, changing styles a lot. This album sees a band at ease, enjoying themselves without becoming careless about their music. On the contrary, I'd say. If you have a vague interest in Queen as an album act, News of the World is a must-have, at least after their classics from the mid-1970s. And personally, I prefer this album over both Sheer Heart Attack and A Night at the Opera. There, I've said it. Don't send killer robots my way. And if you enjoy these reviews, consider subscribing. But most of all, stay tuned for more Murdock Music Minutes. Bye.